DJM Suspension Components sent us a drop kit for our 15 through 20 Ford F-150, this being our 2018 that we purchased off Copart that was hitting the rear, and we done that frame repair. Well, we're going to show you installing that kit. We're going to show you all the components that come in, and we're going to be setting it on those 24-inch Vossens. So stay tuned, and we're going to show you the full install on putting the kit on your front of your truck and the rear of the truck, and setting it on the ground to make it stance just like this. Now this is the 3-5 kit. You're going to do 3 in the front, 5 in the rear, and it should ride just like the factory. So let's dive right in and show you what comes in the kit, and then you go to djmsuspensioncomponents.com and get yours. DJM does supply you with replacement U-bolts for their kit. They do have the replacement hardware, the nuts and the bolts. Whenever you're flipping that rear end on top of the leaves to get that drop, one thing you will have to do is replace those rear shackles. Now these right here are going to be a lot shorter than your factory shackles. That's because these right here are going to give you a little bit of lift to your leaf spring so that it keeps the rear end off that bump stop. Now speaking of bump stops, that's something they also supply too in the kit, because those factory bump stops are a little bit too tall, so you'll be replacing those with the ones that DJM supplies in the kit. These perch pads. Now these pads right here, this is where the nuts are going to go against. The leaf spring is going to go right up through the bottom, just like that, and that's how it's going to fasten on. For the actual flip kit itself, when you sit your rear end into this will go into where that perch pad is, and then this right here will keep that rear end from sliding the rear shocks. Now this right here is going to be the shocks for the back of the truck, because the front uses struts. They do supply that in the kit. Now let's look at the front pieces. They do supply you with this lowering front control arm that replaces your original control arm, and it keeps your original strut assembly. It just makes it a little bit lower into the control arm, raising the control arm up higher and keeping all the geometry correct. So one thing you'll have to do when replacing that, they supply you with new bushings, and these are going to go into lower struts, because the struts on these trucks mount with 2 pivot points directly down on your control arms. This replaces all that, making it a straight through bolt. A little bit easier process, so we'll go through all that and doing this install. And of course, instructions. DJM is going to supply you with all the instructions needed to get this onto your truck, but you don't need instructions because you're watching an 1194 video, and you can sit there step by step, pause it, go through the video, and do this kit by watching us put it on our truck. We have it on jack stands. We're going to take this tie rod in loose. Now, using the same impact that I used on our previous DJM build, I'll be using it to take loose the nut off our tie rod end, and it just rips it right off. I hit the bottom a little bit. There we have it. I'm going to string this up out of the way just by using a few zip ties here. Now we're going to take these lower bolts off first. Okay, so there's the bottom strut bolts. I'm going to take this sway bar link right here off. That way I can take my lower control arm. Okay, now that the sway bar and the tie rod end is loose from the control arm, we're going to take the nut loose right here from the bottom of the spindle. And then once this right here is loose from the spindle, we'll take the 2 bolts mounting it to the chassis loose, and we'll drop this lower control arm away from your strut, leaving those top bolts in and leaving it in place. Then once the lower control arm's dropped, we can pull that strut out. Now we're going to be taking this lower nut loose to take our spindle from our control arm. Slide the bolts out. And let the rear fall down. Just like that. Now I can pick it up out of my spindle. And there we have the OEM control arm. And we can set this out of the way because we won't be using it. We have access to get our strut out. So after taking the 15mm bolts, we can pull our strut right out of the truck. We've done everything to both sides to get these struts out. So now we've got to press out these lower section here, this lower piece, because we're not going to be using a flat style direct bolt to the control arm. By this method, we're going to be using the bolt through. So we're going to go in there and use a press those out. You can see there, it's completely come out. So now we'll get the other one pressed out and show you getting our bushings in. Now that you have them pressed out, take one, put your sleeve in, slide it in one side, and I'm doing this with one hand, slide the other into the other side, just like so. And there's your bottom. I put the Alamites in the control arm, they screw in, and this right here gets a sleeve that goes in here. Now what I'll be putting on this is some marine grade, this is waterproof grease. I'll put this all around this right here and this, and that'll keep that right there from sliding out. Okay, now I have those tight in the front and the rear. I've also tightened up my lower nut that goes on the bottom here of the spindle to the control arm. I've placed my tie rod end down. Now I'm going to torque it down. So there's that. And those right there are some really nice tools. They're cheap, very affordable, and they seem to be standing up pretty good on using that impact wrench. So there's that. Now I'm going to have to raise it up with these from right here at the bottom of the spindle and be able to get my bolt in right here through the bottom of my strut. Now with the supplied bolts, I can slide those through the strut here and then get it torqued down, and then this side right here will be finished. Now everything is torqued down on the left side. Now while I was taking everything off on the left side, I was going on to the right side and taking everything off as well. So everything is ready to go on the right side now. So just complete these steps that you just did on your left or right side and your front end will be finished. Let's go to the back. Now that those are out of the way, we'll go ahead, put the DJMs right there into place, and then fasten them as tight as we can. There's the rear. Now the front on the driver's side will have to be cut, it has to be taken loose, cut off, and then slid through the opposite end. We'll show you that. Looking at it right here, you can easily take it loose from this side right here, but you can't slide it out because of the fuel tank. So I'm going to slide it out just so far. I'm going to take a cut off saw and cut this end of the head off and then slide it the rest of the way out through this way. And I picked up another boat at the salvage yard where we could take these all the way out, make it easier, put them back in. Now as you can see right there, I can put my nut on this side, pull it all the way through. Just like that. Since we have the leafs off, I can go ahead and pull these old shackles off that we're not going to be using. And in its place, we're going to be replacing it with these new smaller shackles. They're shorter, as you can see right there. So okay, I'm going to keep it just a little loose. That way it'll be easier for me to sit these back into place whenever it's time to go put them back in, and then I can torque this down. This right here is your lineup valve. So this right here is going to be going on top of the leaf springs, but you only have one hole and you have 2 dowels. So what you're going to do is use the front one to remove and the rear to flip, because you want your rear end, since it's going to be under here, center. Once you move it up, your angle is going to change because of your angle of where your rear end is going to sit. From where it's set here, it's going to be sitting up this way. So you're going to put the rear one, flip it, the front one, take it out. Well, it should be fine, just one side. Okay, so now basically take this out of the way, put this where the back one would be. We're just flipping it around the other direction. It's going to sit right there, just like so. And then the rear end will sit inside this. So we will sit this into place. When we get it under our rear end, we will have the rear end jacked up. When we let the rear end down, it'll sit right where it needs to be, right inside this little pocket. Now on the rear kit, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to sit this on top, line your hole up, sit the hole on the leaf with a line-up dowel. I'm going to let my rear end down into this perch. This piece here will go on top. So I'll just pull loose some of these lines here, and I'll give them a little bit more leeway out of the way. This line-up dowel will go on top, just like that. The U-boat will go straight down, up against your perch. Leave with these ends going down and put it underneath it, up through the U-boats. Put a washer and a nut on all 4 of the bottom. Then we have these supplied bolts here. Put a washer on the top, washer on the bottom, and then the nut. Before you tighten anything down, you need both sides done. I already have the other side done, so I'm going to line the rear end up from this point to the frame, and then make sure that everything's going to be the same, from the rotors to the leaves, from the rotor over to the frame, and make sure my measurement's right so I can get my rear end to be centered. Once you have everything tight, up here, this is going to set your pinion angle. These 2 bolts on the tops, you can loosen this one up, tighten this one, or loosen this and tighten this one, and change your pinion angle. I've checked both sides. I'm good on my angle now. I've torqued this down. So now what I'm going to do is torque my U-bolts down. So I'm going to put them as close to this perch right here as I can get it. Raise up my lower section here, and then torque them down. When installing your shock, make sure you put your metal sleeve in that goes correct to your bolt. Then slide it in. And then torque them down and you're done. Now if you go to the DJM website, they don't just have suspension kits for the 15 through 20, they also have it all the way down to the older F100 Ford trucks. They have all kinds of different kits, Chevrolet, Ford, Dodge. Go to djmsuspension.com and check out yours today.